Happy Monday and welcome back to Party Talk, where we empower leaders in youth drug prevention. Today, I'm talking with Marco Erickson. He's the program director for CYAC, and you're going to learn all about this program, but basically, they engage youth with prevention. They provide leadership, a place to go after school, and they've built this ecosystem that is just this amazing machine that keeps students involved, gets them in prevention, and builds up these leadership skills so that they're keeping the movement going. And so I'm so excited to talk with him. He's even found his way into legislator for his state of Idaho. So let's dive into this episode with Marco. So Marco, thank you for being on the show. If you want to just kind of tell everyone listening to the Party Talk podcast a little bit about you and what you do, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm a person that's been involved in drug prevention since I was a 10-year-old little boy in the 1980s, in the early days when they had the Just Say No programs.
Yeah.
And so I got involved all through high school, went to college, got a master's degree in psychology, spent a lot of years serving families in mental health, built some statewide programs, was the state director of a lot of drug prevention and mental health services. And then decided I'd run for the legislature. And I won my first time of trying out to win the legislature, and that was great. So I've been in there for 3 years, serve as the vice chairman of health and welfare, do a lot of advocacy for drug prevention and mental health services for my state, and then I've been lucky to be blessed to do some national stuff as well. And on top of that, I run a local program director for a prevention coalition in my community. So I kind of do a lot of great things. I try to be involved as much as I can.
Wow, I can tell, man. And what a cool thing. I mean, a dream for everyone in prevention in Idaho that they have you as part of the legislator to help out with everything. Because that's kind of one of the challenges, right? With change is how do we communicate to our team and our legislation and government the importance of it? And now they've got someone on the inside.
Yeah, it's been very useful. Like it takes a while to learn the process and how to just convince, 100 and something other people that it's important. It's not an easy task. So, and in learning how to write a bill or propose a funding source to go towards prevention, it's not so as easy as it seems, but I've got far enough on the path. I think this year we're going to be really successful in getting some of the Millennium Fund dollars. Some states have already done a lot of that and dedicated in money and funding to the general sources, and ours have not done that yet. So mostly have federal funding to support prevention. And so this is a big priority to see if we could do a little bit better at sustainability for all the providers out there doing that good work.
Yeah. Okay. And how long have you been in the legislature?
I've been in 3 years. This is this next session will be my 4th year.
Okay.
Session. And
wow. Yeah.
so
have you learned something that I'm sure you have, but if you could pick one thing you've learned that has helped you with whether it's say like getting sustainable funding or if it helped you with prevention work that other people on the outside, like they're not in government. So a tip to them from the inside on how to actually do your work.
I've learned is everybody has some advocate or lobbyist or someone, and they get organizations together and they pool their money and they find a way to work with one of those people because there's your advocates. They'll go to bat for you and they'll work really strongly and they'll know how to work with the legislators and they'll know how to write bills. And so those people, even though it costs a little bit of money, I always wondered what was the value in those? They're called lobbyists, but they're also educators, and they're really good at building relationships with all of us that are in that body. And if you don't have one that's working with you in some capacity, even through a volunteer way, or you're paying them through a separate manner, outside of your grant funding, it's important because they'll do some good work with you. Having me on the inside, they don't have to do that. But even if they did have one, it would be better because that person could do more work than I can because I have to focus on a lot of projects I'm working on. I don't have time to go to every single member of the different committees and get the votes sometimes, so it's a very difficult process and they're good at that. So I always recommend, if you can, hire someone who knows those people and works with them on a daily basis.
Okay, that's cool. I would not have thought of that. That is awesome. And I don't want to skip over this too. Did you say you started in prevention when you were 10 years old?
Yeah, surprisingly. So my dad, when I was a really young boy, he passed away from a drunk driving accident. And I don't know, I just really loved drug prevention. I didn't like alcohol and drugs. I didn't like what I saw happen to my family and other families around me. And I was just like, this is a lot more fun living a healthy, free life, this stuff. So how can I help other people not do it? So I joined clubs that were focused on prevention. We would march and parade, and we would do community cleanup service projects and just things I had no idea that it was prevention. I just loved being involved and doing something. And we had a lot of kids, it was just a good, fun club to be a part of. But over time, in high school, I got more driven specifically on specific interventions and ways of doing that, got some training, just loved it, and then I went into mental health. I didn't have a family that had ever been educated in college at all. And so as a first generation, I had no clue what I was doing. I just navigated that entire college and world all by myself and figured out, hey, this mental health thing is connected really well with substance abuse. And I had a passion for substance abuse. I wanted to figure out, how do I get paid to do what I love and support people in a community? It didn't take too long for coalitions, and the concept of that was there, and it just matched what I do. And so I kind of quit providing direct care services, and I gave up a mental health company that I co-owned, and just wanted to do what's best for the community in the prevention space, because it's so much more impactful than having to wait until there's a crisis and respond afterwards.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible, Marco. That's really cool. Glad to have you on the team.
Yeah, my whole life, that's what I was dedicated to. So
wow.
To run for a higher level office and maybe make it up to Washington, D.C., and even be able to support and do more there for people. So my hope is to carry that work forward and continue to serve in every capacity I can to help kids and families avoid drug use.
Dang, dude. Well, that's exciting. You got my vote for sure.
Thanks.
Whatever you're on to next, whatever I can do from Arizona, that's great. I wanted to ask you too, because when I met you at CADCA mid-year, just in the hall, which if you're just listening to this, you can't tell, but you can tell who Marco is because he's always wearing a cowboy hat. And so we would see each other around. Eventually we got talking, and I think did you say that there are over 100 youth involved in your CYA program or your youth prevention club, or did I exaggerate that?
No, there's probably more than that. It's called SIA, and
okay.
It's Community Youth in Action is our program, but we have this little peace sign as our Y, and it means see you later. We have a lot of struggles with families and kids who have suicidal ideation, and so we wanted to make it a place where everyone feels welcome. They're going to feel connected to us and to the community in a big way, and that we need you. So see you later is a way to say, hey, tomorrow we need you. Tomorrow needs you in general. So it was a suicide prevention technique as well as a way to get a lot of kids engaged in the work. So yes, we have hundreds of kids that come sporadically throughout the year. Some are every day, and others are 1 day a week, some days two a week, and they all work on different projects. We have a lot going on inside our space. We have a 14,000 square foot building. That's just the place where we have our teen center. And then we also have next door another space, and we send our leadership teams over there. We work really hard with kids to get them through these leadership trainings, specific to help them go and do more of that prevention work for us, because athletic and adult guided is our philosophy. So you'll always see youth with me everywhere I go, because I don't like to make decisions without them.
Yeah, that's cool. So how do you, if someone is new to building a coalition and they look at you and say, Marco, you're doing such incredible work and your team is expanded, they're doing great work in the community, the youth are leading, what's something that you see is an opportunity for other people to copy what you're doing, or what are some lessons they could take away to help them to be successful in that?
What's funny is we mentor several other coalitions all the time and help them build. And we tell them the number one formula, the most important thing you have is two individuals who love that work and are deeply passionate about it. Because when you have that, the money and all those other things don't matter, and the work matters. And so the money comes, the paychecks come. You have to do that initial foundation and work really hard at the beginning. And then at the end, you'll be able to look back and go, wow, we built this. We started it. I came on board, this coalition started 2018. I came on board January 2019. So it was like 6 months after, and they barely had done a whole lot of things. They just had a little tiny bit of funding. And within now it's 2023, we own our own buildings. We own a fleet of vehicles. We own giant STEM equipment, and we have robotics teams in our building. We've got sewing equipment and all kinds of really amazing things to help kids have a place to be after school. And that just requires us to write grants, talk to community members. You just do a lot of work and you build it. We got a whole building, 2 buildings now that are dedicated to youth. And, one time we dreamed of a space and we started off in a church building. And then we partnered with a senior citizen center, and then COVID hit and we had to get our own space, and we found a way to make it work. And so when you have the drive, when you have the passion, anything's possible. You just have to dream it up and make it happen.
Wow. And you said something there that even when I teach young people how to do like great prevention work, and if they're throwing an event, right, a drug-free event, is I always promote with a partner. And you kind of said that. You said you need 2 people, not 1, 2 people, because one person with an idea, it's kind of like, well, maybe there's no one following them for a reason. Like the subconscious would probably say, well, there's not traction. No one is in this idea. But even just having 2 people shows, well, there's at least another person who's in on this idea, who's excited about it. So there's probably more. Or what else do you attribute to your success through hard work and 2 people?
Well, I learned really young because I started doing this in high school, and I was volunteering, and I watched across many states. I engaged as a youth in national organizations like Youth International or National Teen Institute. And I would go to their events, and I would work with state after state and watch what was the common factor in a successful program, and inside a school or a community. And I always would see that the most successful ones would have 2 people, because when they only had 1, if that person were to leave, the whole entire program died, either statewide or in that community or in that region. I saw it happen many times, and it was because they had one really passionate person. That person got promoted or got married or had a child. Something happens in their life, and then you just can't have an entire program rely on that one individual. They could die in an accident, just tragic things happen. And so you want to have the ability to replace people, and I'm always trying to bring up the next generation of people to replace me, because I want someone that has the same level of passion. But there will come a day where I'm not able to do all that work at the same level, and there'll be another generation. The science is moving forward every year. We get better and better at this work. And so you just got to have an educated workforce, and you've got to have people that are there in space, So that's what I've learned over time, watching and seeing successful programs and projects.
Okay. Wow. And what are some of the projects that you're really proud of that, the young people, the CEAC have done that you've been super impressed by? What kind of activities are they leading, or when you empower them to do the work?
Well, it's a daily thing. There's something going on every day. So I'm always proud of these kids. I think the key is for the adults in their lives to see their potential and find where it's at and put them to work using that skill. And I'll give you a random example. I had a kid one time, and this was back before I knew how to do a lot of texting and technology, but this kid he had the skill set to create animated text messages and things that the rest of us have no clue how to do, at least at the time. And so he could send out a communication to every team that we had. And so you use that talent, and that's where your strength is. And his strength was not public speaking, but another team was public speaking. So we put their talent to use there. We'll put them in front of audiences and allow them to be funny and do skits and engage with the community in that way. So we put people where their strengths are, and we build up their strengths where they don't see that potential that we see. And so that's kind of it answers your question a little bit, but there's so much to be proud of when we do things every single day. So actually tonight, we will be hosting our final summer block party, and that event usually brings us a community, just a neighborhood, and we go and deliver invitations, about 2,000, 1,500 invitations to homes around that park. We host events, and there's blow up bouncy houses, and there's adult tanks, and there's carnival activities, but it's all free, and it's designed to get people communicate and talking to each other and their neighbors, and getting out again, and knowing and the kids plan, they plan clear back in March, April, and May, these events. And this is the final of 5. You know, 5 or 6,000 people attend those. So when you think about that, it's a huge accomplishment. It takes months of work, and the kids, they show up, they run some booths, and they help set the whole event up and tear it all down. And those are things that are very successful, and they work on for months, and it feels like it's just one day. But I look back and I'm like, that was a lot of work you guys put in. And I'm always proud of them. They write new skits every year. They're designed to empower their peers, and they just take a piece of music and they'll write a story related to it and act it out on stage. And that makes it a lot of fun to watch them shine in schools and community events. And what I really think is the most fun is when you make all the people cry who are looking at your things because they're connecting to the issue. And that to me means that they have a personal connection, and also they see the power and the magic of what we do as a team. And our kids are really good at those skits and making people feel connected to the issues that we're presenting to them and solutions that we're presenting. Because we're saying, hey, by having us around and all these, we're putting all these things in place to give kids skills, resiliency training and resiliency skills, and a place to be in the community, we're reducing all these other problems. And it's not costing a whole lot of money. If you wait till it's a problem, you're spending a lot more money. And so those things I'm most proud of with the teams.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And that our resources often go to when it's really late in the process. We're like, how do we react to this? And where the prevention work comes in is, and what's so cool too, is you have these young people that, who knows, there might be another Marco in the group who's going to get involved in prevention professionally later or go into government. And even if they don't, they're going to bring this leadership skills, this mindset of positive mental health into their jobs and influence their friends, into their schools. And so, yeah, it's such a cool model. And I love that y'all have kind of expanded into different areas, because you mentioned the SEAC group, which is kind of like the youth-led group. And then you have the teen center, the Live Teen Center. And then you also have something called Spark. I saw is it kind of supportive? Like what's
Spark
that?
Is a brand new project we put together in partnership with the legislature, and we have a behavioral health council in our state it's very unique because it has the judicial branch, the executive branch, and the legislative branch working together on behavioral health issues. And their recommendations partnered with some of the stuff I worked on. We ended up with $12 million to put across the state to do entire these community assessment centers, which are more like a screening center. And it's designed to catch those situations really early and make, like a case management, but it's all free. And families don't have to feel intimidated. They get to be, and they get to come over to the center and get everything free, be connected to any services. They'll screen it for substance abuse, or we've had with all kinds of issues, even head lice, so
Yeah.
or skirting on a family's trailer when their heat was out. It's really cold where we live. And so we find resources to link families to help them not have to focus and worry about that one issue that day. And we did that on a statewide approach. We're the first state to do it as a statewide approach. Many other states have like one or two of those centers around. I visited, several of them across the country. But when you're researching that, you're like, this is impactful, and it helps us reduce the kids going into the juvenile correction system and the adult, the protection systems like youth protection, child protective custody. And so that's the kind of the goal, is to divert those. And then someday we'll measure the cost savings. That's going to be our hope, is to show major cost savings. We had a case just last week where law enforcement had a runaway child. And usually those cases where they have a runaway, they would have to spend 6, 7, 8 hours of their time interacting with the family, dealing with the case, putting the kid in, because it's the middle of the night. They call us, our team respond, and then we had the law enforcement brought them over to the center, and they were able to go back out on the street, and then we collaborate with the parents. And it was that's what Spark is. It's a really amazing place. It stands for Safety Prevention and Resource Center. And it's right next door in the building next door. So we can refer kids from our program over that need extra supports. But we can also take referrals from law enforcement and schools and any community member that just says, hey, this family may need you. And then if they're teenagers and they want to participate in our other stuff we offer, we'll show them that. We have community closets where there's clothing, there's food, various resources that we have right here in our building for all teens, and it's all free all the time. So we get a lot of donations because people are like, yeah, we want to make sure you always have good quality things for these families. So we're super blessed in that way. But yeah, that's what the Spark program, and we're proud of that.
Wow. Yeah, I would be. What a win for the community. I mean, just in public health and community wellness, to have that in town, that is so incredible. And that they did this, like you kind of mentioned, it's a scope of things. Whatever their basic needs are, or their needs, they can at least go there for a resource. That's really
We also got a crisis center in our community. And we bring all the community partners together, and rather than us doing everything, we were like, who would be willing to do this? And we would help them write the grant. And another agency stepped up, and so they have the juvenile crisis center, and we already had adult crisis centers and recovery centers and support centers. So we're doing a much better job right now than ever before in connecting in that preventative space, or in the early phase, and really trying to mitigate those things before they get really bad. So I find great joy in that. We can never really measure that long-term impact, like you said earlier when you talked about another Marco. Heck, when I was a kid and I was little, and they put me in those programs, I didn't have any idea, like you at all, like you were saying, that I would ever go do some of these things. In fact, I was shy, until I went to one of those Teen Institute programs when I was like 16, and I realized, hey, this is my people. When I came out of my element, as I got confidence, and I'm just like every other teen. They come in there a little shy, but then I can't. People say he talks too much. Now I get invited to be like keynote speakers at events and things, and so it's kind of funny. It's like the best thing. When I went back to my own middle school, that they used to joke and have me, they tell us, sit down, be quiet. Tell the kids, hey, guess what? They're paying me to come here and talk. So it's kind of like funny to come back and have a full circle like that.
That is really funny. This just came into my mind too. So my parents were cleaning out the attic, right? All of our junk from 15 years of living in our hometown. And they found this piece of paper I must have done for a class project. And maybe it was I can't remember specifically, but in my mind, it was either a class project, or maybe it was something one of the coalitions was doing, like a poster contest or something. But I drew at a young age this person that had like a green face, like they were going to throw up. And it just said, being drunk really sucks. And it was spelled wrong, like I was young enough, I didn't know how to spell. All I knew at that point is my parents were really open to me about the issues that were going on in our family, and how alcohol and drugs were related to those issues. And at some point, I must have had some kind of prevention experience, because I made this poster And my parents saved it and found it later. And now I'm this person that's doing, drug prevention as a professional. And so it was something I can't even remember, but I just thought back thinking that is incredible that maybe a seed was planted. I don't know. Or just the fact that my family talked about it was really important. I don't know.
Well, and that's one of our big campaigns in the communities. Every time we interact with parents, we're trying to say, listen, don't stop talking to your kids about these issues. Right now, fentanyl's huge. We've got to make sure every kid and every family knows you should not be taking pills from the street. It's not safe. Even if you order them online, not safe right now.
Yeah.
So you gotta educate people, because those of us who are in the field, we live that every day, and we go to all these trainings, but the general public is not.
Yeah.
Getting the kids trained when they're young, being in the schools, being present. And the sad part is that takes money. And that means that people that are in lawmaking positions need to really prioritize that, because if you don't, and that's what I'm trying to tell them, is if you're not prioritizing monetizing the work in prevention, you're going to be paying for it in prison systems and with education in a much bigger way, because the schools are going to be overwhelmed. School resource officers, law enforcement, you're going to have a mental health, you're going to have increased medical care costs on the flip side. So being able to have vision, see long-term past your little 2-year election cycle or 4-year election cycle, right? You got to be able to have that long-term vision to really make that impact. So that's what I'm trying. That's a message I think legislatively we need to continue to push across America. And then they're going to see, because we've done a lot of research. Canada does research. Our local states have done research. Every time when we're doing evidence-based projects, we're seeing return on investment. Sometimes up $50 on some interventions. And, even if it was the lowest I've seen in my state was 14. But even let's say I took half of that, and it was 7%. I would still, as an investor, want to get a 7% return on, $7 for every dollar I put in. That's a pretty good. So, yeah.
That's incredible. And do you have to be a math genius to calculate the return on investment for that? Or could anyone do that?
Hey, it's always fascinating to me how these communities and they put these research projects forward, how they measure that. There's geniuses. Yeah. Those math geniuses, they figure out how you calculate like loss of wages because people are staying home, costs to the businesses when you've got serious mental health problems related to substance abuse. They're looking at car crash data. They're looking at highway death tolls. They're looking at hospitalizations and law enforcement timing. So when you calculate that, you're calculating this giant algorithm. I don't know what all goes into it, but I know that when you really fully calculate the impact, you can see that there's a major return on investment. And I worked in treatment for years, and I served families one-to-one, and I, as a provider, and I'd be in their homes, and I'd be in the community, and sometimes they were in the clinic, right? And they were doing medication management and therapy and all these services. And you talk, it was great to have an impact on that one-to-one level, but the cost is much more significant than when we're doing these large community-wide preventative kind of events and projects and working with kids in a group setting and making a difference. And they're doing it peer-to-peer, right? And doing assemblies, all the different strategies that we have, not just one or two, we're mixing them all together. And that's what really makes the big impact long-term. So saves a lot of money.
Wow. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode so far. Marco has so much to share and 30 years of knowledge. So I actually wanted to break this up into 2 episodes. So I will see you next week for part 2. And again, if you found this helpful, please send this to somebody who's in our field. Don't keep this a secret. Let other people know about this resource, because I think together we're able to share more, do more, and learn more, because lives are at stake. These students are facing a lot of challenges, either at home or in our communities. And the information that we have to share could be life-saving. And so for anybody who's new in this field, please know that we're here for you. We're able to support you. And if this has been a helpful resource for you, it could be helpful to someone else. So make sure to subscribe so you're getting alerted every Monday, and you can listen on your way to work and share with a friend. We'll see you next week for that second part of this episode of Party Talk.